In fact, that work and passion you're putting in was actually quoted in the Globe and Mail. They gave you the moniker, the hardest working novelist you've never heard of. But you have really made a name for yourself through the promotion and the effort and passion of interacting with folks. And I really would like to go into, that book campaign model that you use. What are the things you were doing, before the gig? How did you get the gig? Then once you got the gig, what did you do during the gig? And then after the gig was over, what did you do then? And how did you get your next one? I think writers would really be interested to know what your secret sauce is, because frankly, 400 book events, and a lot of attention from the press. You have been doing something right, and I want to know. myself.
Well, when you say the secret sauce, I think the secret sauce is just doing it. It's one of those things that, and it was very early on. Someone asked me, like, it's kind of like the whole marketing thing. Like, what did you get out of doing that? As an example, like, what did you get out of doing Twitter? And I would kind of go, and of course, I'm from a world that's got reams and reams of data. You're building big stories, you're creating PowerPoints, you're presenting in front of everybody. This is why the customer wants this. And great, there's stories and it all kind of comes together. But what I realized really quickly is I really couldn't find out, example, Twitter, I was getting out of it at all. I could see like from the point of view of data that you could pull out of it, but it wasn't really telling me readers, and it wasn't telling me necessarily even books sold. And so it was one of those things that I said, well, I think it's better than not doing it. And actually, it's the name of my company as well, is Better Than Not. It just became a very familiar term. Is like my wife would come up and say, like, why are you going there? Well, I don't exactly know, but I think I know, and it's better than not going there. It's better than not. And so, like, it's just one of those things that and it didn't matter, like, especially when I've talked to other authors, is like, do everything. And until you find, I think, a few things that worked, and that's where the book signing came to me. Book signings were one that I had no interest in doing, George. Like, when I first, in fact, we probably even talked about it, and I never wanted to be a carnival barker, and that's kind of what I saw the person at the bookstore, and I would go in, and I'm the person, like, I'm introverted. I go to a bookstore, I just want to find a book, the shelf it's on, and read, and quiet, don't bother me type of thing. And what I began to really realize is I would walk into some of these, the person would be sitting at the desk or the table or whatever was there, and they weren't really even engaged. Like, it was like a place to be. Like as an example, it's just, I'm an author, I'm finally in a bookstore, this is great. And that's probably what turned things around for me. I was in a store in downtown Toronto, and I was trying to figure out how to get books into the store and those things. And the book manager kind of said to me, well, like, why would we want your book in our store? And I said, well, I have a book trailer and I have this and different things. And he goes, for whatever reason, like that twinkle in my eye, whatever it was. And he said, have you ever thought of doing book signings? And of course, I already had my whole spiel down of why not. But he was having none of it. Like, but he says, tell me, where else are you going to go meet maybe some future readers and possibly get a few books, move a few books? And I had no answer for it. He just hit me like it's never been explained, or I'd never even heard it kind of that way. So that was really the beginning. And from then on, I just kind of started to go. And what I really realized, I had done a half dozen. And I really began to realize is that I've got kind of this people pleaser mind trap, and I don't, I just can't stand wasting people's time. Like that's one of, if, as soon as I get a sense of it, it just irritates me to no end. And I started to say, if I got 30 seconds of a person's time, I have to have something ready to tell them that, as far as I can put together, is interesting. If they don't like it, fine, but at least I've given it a try. And that 30 seconds gives them something more than they had before. Like that was my whole, really, that was the secret sauce of the book events, is just trying to put together. It became more complicated as I added, like the actor was first, then the driving came out, then the musician came out. And it's like the actor, I mean, it can still, like the actor, what's the actor about? Well, the actor is a story of a young man's journey of self-discovery and overcoming the trauma of a personal tragedy in his life, which he does in a somewhat unique way by chasing a dream that's not what it seems. And then I would add, like, the little key thing we did, the actor can portray anything he can imagine, like, which actually completely encapsulates the book, even though you don't know that. And then when the Globe, I added another thing where the Globe Mail called it a bizarre David Lynch-like thriller about obsession, delusion, and determination. And so that's kind of what it started to become. That's like literally 20 to 30 seconds. And it bridges, because then people could start to ask questions and you can go somewhere with it. And that's where I found, and that's what I write, like, anyone who has a book out, if someone, buddy, whoever, what's your book about, George? You got to have something that you can just, you can't go, well, it's kind of about an engineer and it's about Hollywood and there's this murder and it's kind of suspenseful, but it has some mystery in it. Like, do you know what I mean? That's kind of what I started to put together. And I would say, of all the things I did, the book signings were probably the most valuable.
And they were training for future engagements you'd have with the media to get them interested enough to do an interview, review, preview.
Yep.
A lot of writers struggle. They don't even know where to start. And back in the day when I worked in the major traditional industry, we'd put together like press kits, sell sheets. And the goal was to convince whatever venue you're approaching. It could be a bookstore for shelf placement. It could be the media for an interview, review, preview. It didn't really matter, but what you had to be able to do was spin in very short amount of words, right? And ideas, the exact value you present to their audience. And in the case of a bookstore, the bookstore owner wants people to come into that store, right? And if you can prove to them that you can bring people in, you will find success. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever delve into like doing writing workshops, showing people how to write to gain interest as a kind of an offshoot? Did you ever explore anything like that?
So, George, one of the things that I was trying to be very careful of was time. So when I started to break things down, like we started, like one of the things we did originally was hire a publicist. That taught me enormous amounts of stuff, so that you could actually be your own publicist and getting contacts with different places. I mean, some of those things, that's where the Globe and Mail came from. I mean, in Canada, I couldn't ask for more than the Globe and Mail. That's our only national newspaper up here, and they covered me twice. Like, and the article you refer to is a feature article. It was actually the front page of Globe Arts, which was just unbelievable to me for a relatively new author. So those things, and it was be it TV interviews, radio interviews. I just had to go out and get them. Like, that's, you just find a way to kind of get connected with them. And I continue to kind of pursue that world. But the thing that was the struggle was the writing time. So to your question, I probably did 24 webinars with an author learning service, which was really beneficial to me. So I talked to everything from creativity, book signings, to social media and marketing and writing. Like, those were the things that I kind of touched with. But what I was trying to be careful with, and I mean, what still intrigues me, I think it'd be interesting to teach a creative writing course as an entrance, just to give like a you've done it, so to speak. Like you're in that world. You're not just talking about it. I live it. That's what I do, and giving people to a sense of what it takes to do that. We're all creative. Like a lot of people say, no, I've lot, and I said, no, everyone's creative. It's just that your creativity is different than my creativity, and certain people will like yours, and certain people will like mine. And depending on who that is, well, you have great creativity, and you don't have any creativity at all. But that's not necessarily accurate. It's just how society kind of orients itself around them. So those have been some of the things that I kind of looked at. I like the webinars were literally putting a PowerPoint together with a number of things that this is what I did, right? And I think that's part of what I had going for me is this wasn't theory that I'd come out of a book with. I'd actually lived it. So like I knew kind of it's like one of the things that I always thought was interesting at book signings, there's a magic word. Hello. It's quite astonishing how that word changed a lot for me from being an introvert, because it's always that like, can I say something clever? No, you don't have to think of anything clever. Actually, the basic hello really makes a huge difference to most people. It actually made a difference in my personal life as well, like just because you started defining, that's a pretty generalized opening statement, but if you don't say it, it doesn't get started. So I found that was like those were some of the things that I kind of got into. I still I will, from different things that I get involved with. I'm involved with this new thing called Copper Books, which is an app that you can get from your Apple Store. It's supposed to be something. It's gotten a lot of good press actually. The CEO of it is Allison Trowbridge, and I heard it through my agent, but I've been doing like a couple of different like open mic types of things where they have a session where you can kind of have authors come in and read their passage. As an author, you don't get a much of a chance to do that, and I'll tell you, every time you read out loud what you've actually written, you might be going back to the computer or the keyboard to retype what you wrote because it may
Why
not say.
don't we do that? I mean, do you have a favorite passage that, I mean, I think we should do that now if you have the book
Yeah, I was
available.
going to say I have a couple of things that I find kind of intriguing, and so I'm going to pick something that I haven't done out of the drive-in for a long time. And so the drive-in is this is a book that's a collection of short stories that's somewhat unique, and that's why we kind of call it a twist. So you drive along with a person who's driving to work, who has his own story. It's really the narrative. And what he passes, the houses, the places, we, the reader, get to go inside because those are the short stories. And so like the rights for this were bought for a podcast. It's got like a lot of different things that can kind of go on with it. But I'm going to read from, I think it's the fifth story. It's called The Polaroid Girl. And this is not a long passage. So the I won't give you the whole story of this short story, but the concept is about these young, I'll say troublemakers. Basically, they're teenagers, don't have enough to do, but come from really troubled backgrounds, and they've been given this game to play where they have to steal a car and race to get this girl, the Polaroid girl. And this is one of Bobby's kind of the main character in this. And he's been driving, trying to elude police because they're chasing him. And he's finally had to stop his car because he's got to get on his feet because he's gone as far as he can with his car. So he pushed. He goes, the image of the girl in the Polaroid returned. He started moving. He pushed off the car door, closing it. The large two-story house looked new and expensive. Using the vans for cover, he crossed the front yard and ran through a flower bed and shrubs. A quick look back as he rounded the side of the brick house revealed two cruisers already on the street. They were not slowing. Tires and sirens screamed. The vans would give him a few seconds. He hoped it was enough. They would never catch him on foot. Of that he was certain. He was running for his life. They were doing their jobs. That was just like one of those quick little snippets. But what's interesting for me is I was doing this library session where we were talking about it, and the moderator brought that part out. He said, "What made you write where the perspective of like the criminal, the bad guy running, and the cops, that's their job. Like that's what they do, not all the time, but that's what their goal is. And if you're running for your what you think is your life, and a person's running because it's their job, one's got a pretty big advantage over the other as far as even from a mental image. And it was one of those things that just kind of came up. And I remember reading this out loud in the library and going, I remember writing this passage, but I didn't realize the effect of what that meant. And so to that point, one of the things that I began to find out was, and this came from book signings as well, is the script that I would write out that I was going to say, once I started to say it out loud, it changed. And so that's where I think it was John Steinbeck, that said that you have to read dialogue out loud in order for it to become real. And that's become very present with me. So that's one of the things that we were doing this open mic thing on Copper Books, which is set up so that people can sign up for it and they can come forward and read their books. But it's like everything else, you got to step out to do that, right? That's not a comfort zone. You wrote these words. Now someone else is going to hear them, and I'm opening myself up to vulnerability, right? And that's not a comfortable thing. But as an author, I mean, sooner or later you have to get out.
I always had that belief that, passion and fear can't share the same space at the same time. One always has to win. And I perceive you more as an ambivert, which is a person who's simultaneously introverted and extroverted. That paradox there.
Yeah.
Because there is some seemingly like need for connection despite the initial introversion that a lot of people have.